The new co-op hologram bosses have been available for nearly a week, and I feel like I'm in the majority of players when I say that this is some of the best content I've ever played. Not just in Wuthering Waves, but in Gacha gaming as a whole. It's clear that Kuro, at the launch of the game, wasn't tapping into the full potential of co-op, and it's even more clear now after we've gotten a taste of what this company can cook. Co-op in the Gacha action RPG genre has built a terrible reputation across the past few years, with games like Genshin Impact running with no competition at all. There was simply no incentive to create meaningful, engaging, and relatable co-op content. There's a reason why a majority of Genshin's co-op modes are a scattered, random display of minigames that have nothing to do with the game's baseline combat. The Genshin devs know that their combat is one of the most unappealing parts of the game, especially in co-op where you're locked to a single character. Wuthering Waves, on the other hand, is a game with one of the most fulfilling combat systems in the genre, and the Kuro devs took that work, refined it for the multiplayer environment, and implemented it in one of the most brilliant ways possible. It's so good, in fact, that players are asking for more adaptations of existing game modes, rather than the innovative minigames that nobody really cares about at all. That couldn't happen unless wuwa's co-op design was absolutely amazing, and it is. Today we'll be diving into why this is the case, exploring the extraordinary evolution of co-op across Wuthering Waves' 4 months of service, what makes its design so appealing to the player base, and why co-op's potential is limitless, as long as Kuro keeps developing content for the baseline game. When the systems you've built from the ground up are fantastic, chances are the new features built off those systems will be fantastic as well. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Launching with a bare-bones implementation that heavily mimicked one of its predecessors, Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves' co-op consisted of joining friends or strangers' worlds and farming materials, echoes, or occasionally helping out with exploration. However, this quickly became one of the most unappealing activities in the game, primarily due to the fact that 1. Kuro games respected your time when leveling characters and didn't require an obscene amount of overworld materials to ascend them. 2nd, the devs started throwing out echoes like hotcakes through every single event. And 3rd, exploration is finite and gets completed at some point. What this meant was that co-op had close to no purpose for a majority of players, with the non-existent challenge of overworld enemies and the inability to partake in engaging activities like the hologram boss fights, the Tower of Adversity, or the Elusive Realm, which were all the most engaging and, in the eyes of players, the most appealing potential co-op content in the game. So Kuro did what Kuro does best. They listened, and proved themselves as some of the most competent developers in the industry. Unlike other developers who ignore requests for meaningful co-op content and instead implement minigames that genuinely look like a beta test for a completely different IP. Instead, Wuthering Waves developed their co-op mode by simply taking the fantastic content already in-game and refining its features and mechanics to fit the multiplayer environment. They did that with some of the best content in the game, the hologram bosses, and this was genuinely the first game mode where players actually had the chance to utilize this game's fully fleshed out co-op system, and it's because of one mechanic: concerto energy. While this mechanic shines in a single player party where you have full control over how you build a character's concerto energy and when it gets used for intro and outro skills, in co-op, every player builds up their own gauge independently, and when it's filled, you give your teammates the opportunity to use their intro skills and receive your outro buffs. And with how unique every character in wuwa plays, you're not building up this meter with dull, uninspired gameplay where you press 2 buttons and basically do nothing for the rest of the fight, unlike other games. Everybody with knowledge about wuwa systems knows that these intro and outro skills are some of the most important factors when it comes to performance in combat, and Fairy Tail's finale was the first type of content where players felt an actual need to use these abilities properly. Part of this was due to the fact that Shorekeeper's release lined up with this event. Her incredible buff of 12.5% crit rate and 25% crit damage doesn't function at all if intro skills aren't used. And when bosses in this game mode, specifically in the nightmare stages, legitimately have the potential to 1 or 2-shot you, this gave a massive benefit to running sustainers in any lineup, which was a huge improvement over the all DPS lineups we were accustomed accustomed to across the genre. Could you imagine Genshin creating a co-op mode with enemies dangerous enough to warrant a sustainer? You couldn't, because that would cause anxiety for the player base. It's a shame as well, since they already had the blueprints available with their local legends and Spiral Abyss bosses. By creating a need for a sustainer across this content, Kuro also made it very easy for lower leveled accounts to tackle this content as well. All they needed to do was queue up for a random matchmaking, lock in a healer, and let the other teammates do the work. Don't believe me? Just check out all these clears, all with a UL29 level 50 Verena. And even if you don't have a healer, the team's ability to continually respawn as long as there's a single player still alive allows any composition to work as well, as long as the last man standing can dodge like their life and the lives of their other two teammates depend on it. What this all means is that Kuro trusts their player base. They're not worrying about a player's crippling anxiety preventing them from clearing the game mode. They released incredibly difficult content with the knowledge that some accounts would not be able to complete it solo, and trusted their player base to collaborate to get it done. And the result? It's been one of the best experiences that I and many players have had with the game, with a ton of fun interactions, mutual glazing of Kuro in chat, and a lot of thanks being given out by these lower leveled players. This difficult content, instead of separating the community, instead brings it together, giving whales the opportunity to show off their insane gear, sweaty players the chance to show off their insane no-hit dodging skills, and casuals the out of a support role to watch their teammates make it happen. It's safe to say that it's nothing short of brilliant, and there's a reason why every player I've surveyed has confirmed that this should be added as a permanent game mode with a recurring set of rewards. However, there are still some additions that they can make, like an option to dim the visual effects of teammates so that Jinsei isn't flashbanging the entire team every time she uses an ability. Overall, the incredibly positive reception to this mode has only opened the door to more content in the future. Many have been disappointed by the lack of news regarding the elusive realm across version 1.3. While the new co-op event has addressed part of its absence, many are still eagerly awaiting its return. There are many that have theorized that Kuro's working towards adapting this mode for co-op as well. And when we factor in how they'd have to streamline areas like metaphor selection, character upgrades, and all those other features to account for the multiplayer environment, it would make sense that this edition would take a lot more development time than a single patch cycle. As Wuthering Waves continues to add more and more fantastic new game modes for single player, we can only hope that those that are well received get adapted for co-op. We've gotten a taste of what this game mode can offer, and it's safe to say that many players can't get enough. Who knew that when your game's baseline combat is amazing, the co-op battles are amazing as well? As always, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.